Hi, and welcome to another episode of Conversation with a Chef. I'm Jo Ritty, and I love sharing with you the conversations I get to have with talented and passionate chefs. It's the backstory, if you will, to the food they're putting up. I begin today by acknowledging the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, traditional custodians of the unceded land where this conversation takes place, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. People often ask me what my favourite conversation with a chef has been, and I usually say I don't have one. I love them all. Everyone has a story to tell, and I feel genuinely privileged to be able to hear and share those stories, which makes it hard to single one out. But sometimes a conversation lingers. Sitting inside Greasy Zoes in Hurstbridge, after that gentle shift from city to rolling hills, it became clear. What Zoe Birch and her partner Lachlan have created here with intention, conviction and deep connection to place, people and produce is the result of years of quiet confidence and commitment. This was a glorious conversation about choosing risk, staying small, cooking honestly and building a life that makes sense. And now, if you ask me what my favourite conversation has been, I have an answer. Zoe Birch. Hi Zoe, it's really lovely to be here at Greasy Zoes in Hurstbridge.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the drive out.
I actually really did. There's a point where it changes, where you come off the Hume and start heading through some really beautiful rolling hills, and that's when my heart gives a little leap, because it's so nice to get out of the city.
Yeah, it's like going from concrete city literally to green wedge.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you were just saying it is actually still part of Melbourne, but it feels like it's a little village in the mountains somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like a small country town.
Yeah. You've been here for 9 years, and you made that decision with your partner Lachlan to open something on your own. How did you find Hurstbridge? How did you find this space?
Yeah, so Lachlan grew up in Warrandyte, and then his parents built a house in Christmas Hills, which is part of the Nillumbik, which is where Hurstbridge is, but it's also a little bit closer to the Yarra Valley. And Lachlan's mum, Kylie, was, for a good long while, a sourdough baker. And Greasy Zoes used to be a little organic fruit and veg shop, and Lachlan's mum, Kylie, sold her bread in this very building.
Okay, right.
And so when the owners of the little organic shop decided that they weren't going to do it anymore, and Kylie knew that Lachlan and I were pretty frustrated, we didn't know if we were going to keep on going with hospitality, we were sort of like weighing up our options, Kylie just sort of came up to us and said, well, look, I don't know if it's suitable, but this building is, it's available. Maybe you should just go and have a look and see if that works. And we did. And when we walked in, it's very different. It was very different to what it is now. There were, walls everywhere and all sorts of stuff. But I don't know, Lachlan and I walked in and it was just such a nice sort of vibe. I'm so sick of that word, but it was a nice vibe. And it just felt warm, like it just felt right.
Yeah.
And it was, it's strange to say, but it was actually a smaller space because, like I said, there were all these strange sort of walls everywhere and it was kind of a little bit more, it just looked a lot smaller than it was. But I mean, you're in here, it's tiny. It's basically like a living room. But for us, we thought, we can definitely make this work. We can do it with just the two of us. We've both been working in hospitality for such a long time. We were really confident with what we did. And, our friends and family were super concerned. They weren't sure if this was a good idea. End of the line, Hurstbridge. I think when we first opened it was about 12, 14 seats, so it was more than what we do now. And we were calling it Greasy Zoes, so there was a little bit like, people were a little bit worried, and they weren't shy about telling us.
Yeah.
But I don't know, Lachlan and I I think we opened this when we were both 28 years old, and we didn't have kids, and we didn't have any responsibility at that time. We didn't own a house, and it was just like, well, let's just give it a go, because we've worked for so many other people, and we have our own concept of what we want to do, and we can't find a place where we can do that. Let's just put our money where our mouth is, give it a go. If it doesn't work out, it's fine, and at least we can say that we did it. But if it does work out, then that's great. We can create a lifestyle business, and, that's what we want. So we did, and, like with all small businesses, it's, took a while. The locals weren't 100% on board at first, because it was very different.
Yeah.
Even though we're only, 45 minutes from the Melbourne CBD, there was nothing like it in the area. Like we were essentially a, relatively fancy restaurant. We were doing all these dishes that people had never seen before. So there was a bit of pushback, But then there was a lot of support as well from people in the area that drive all the way into the city and now we were here. So it took a while. It took a good year, I reckon, before people really embraced what we were doing and accepted it. And obviously, you know, in that time, things are changing. People are learning more about food and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's been an amazing journey 9 years on.
Well, you would have been one of the first micro restaurants
in
Australia.
Yeah, totally. And like, honestly, we didn't do that on purpose. For us, it was literally, we had worked in hospitality our whole lives, so we just didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And we didn't have the option, I just don't think we had the option of staff, you know, incredibly expensive fit out. For us, it was like, okay, cool. It's a space where we can manage it, just the two of us. You know, the rent is relatively affordable. It's at the train lines, which is really good for getting people from different areas. So we didn't really do it on purpose. It wasn't like we sat down and said, let's be the first micro restaurant ever. It just actually happened like that. And I'm so proud that we came up with such a unique idea and just did it, because I'm 38 now, and I don't know if I would necessarily have the confidence to do that, just because I've got so much more baggage now being older, and you know, I think you become a little bit more conservative maybe as you get older. There's so much more at stake, so I'm really glad that we did it when we were that age, and then we just stuck to our guns, and we just said to everyone, we understand that you're concerned, and even, you know, the locals, we understand that you don't get it, but I swear we know what we're doing, and you just need to give us a bit of time. I'm really proud that we actually did that. Yeah. Yeah.
So the idea of a set menu, that's what the idea was from the outset?
No, so when we first opened, just because we were cautious, I would say.
Yeah.
So now we do 8 seats. When we first opened, it was about 12 to 14. The way that the actual dining room was set up was a little bit different. And we had a menu, which was printed, which we don't do anymore. And it was literally a couple of snacks, 3 mains, and like a couple of desserts. And you could, you know, choose off of that, or we had 2 set menu options. And it was basically, you can eat the whole thing, or we'll add a couple of dishes. And so at first people sort of did the grazing thing, got the odd set menu, and then 8 months in, we sort of progressively got quite busy actually, which was great. And then 8 months in, I got pregnant with our first child. We took a little break over the summer period just to sit and reflect, which we do every year, and it's a great idea. If you own a small business, even though it is a financial, you know, it's a bit of a financial burden to take time off, especially if, you know, you're a small team. But we do it every year because it's nice to just sort of step away, reflect, come into the new year with maybe new ideas or whatever. And yeah, so we took some time off, reflected, and went, do you know what? We're just going to do the set menu. Like, we're not doing this. We don't want people to have the choice. We'll just do a small set menu. We'll have 2 options. And we'll roll with that. And it was, because we were concerned at first that, will people get it? Are they going to be okay with it? We've already had a little bit of pushback from the community. And people got it straight away. Yeah. And it was great. And then we just, you know, progressively chopped and changed and took seats out and did, you know, whatever. Because I think that when we first opened the restaurant, the concept was it was always going to be, we wanted it to be smaller than what it was, but we also were aware that we needed to, you know, get the word out, get bums on seats, make a little bit of money. And so literally it kind of went to plan really well. You know, we started off a little bit bigger, went to the set menu completely, and then we took some seats out, and we've been rolling with this since COVID, the 8 seats, so quite a while now. Yeah. And it worked. I think 8 is kind of like the Goldilocks number for us. Yeah. Yeah, over COVID we could only do 6, and I think it's just a little too quiet, even though it's a very tiny space and it is just Lachlan and I don't know, I think just for this space it's quiet. So, you know, you're sort of putting certain records on, trying to lift the mood a little bit. Yeah. But with 8 people, there's just there's more ambience, there's more chatter, people are, you know, talking more. It just, you get a little bit more of a buzz, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
It really feels like I've come into someone's home. It's so cozy, with the wood on the ceiling and the brick and the
the wood detail, actually walls as well. There's a lot to look at.
Yeah.
But there really is nowhere for you to hide.
No, that's right.
How was that initially? Were there things that you learnt about yourself because of that?
Oh, I don't know. I think I've worked in a lot of open kitchens, but I also think that Lachlan and I don't have anything to hide. And I think that might be, I mean, I've never really reflected on it, but I think Lachlan and I are really confident with what we offer, and we want people to know, because I don't necessarily think that every restaurant is truthful all the time. You know, it's really easy to write on a menu that it's seasonal and, you know, local, but it's not necessarily true all the time. Whereas for us, you know, the places that we get our fruit and veg from, they're our friends, and we talk to them and we see them regularly. So, you know, we're using like local spirits, and the tables are handmade from locals, and, you know, the plates are handmade, and, you know, everything here is like a reflection on Lachlan and I. So I think it must have been, I mean, I wanted people to see. It's such a small space, it would be strange if you couldn't just have a conversation with me in the kitchen. So I think, yeah, that must have been almost like maybe like proving something, like, that's right, there's nothing here to hide.
Yeah.
Like, you are at our home for dinner. Lachlan's going to pour you wine, I'm going to cook for you, and you can chat to me throughout the experience. Yeah.
And I think, as you say, you are who and what you say you are. So it is sustainable. You are. Waste is important.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And local, hyper-local, and all
yeah.
of those kind of things. How do you, I mean, you're talking about it's your friends who are suppliers and so on.
Yeah.
It feels like there must be such a real community. How do you get to know who's doing some of these cool things? Like, for example, tell me a little bit more about this mushroom man, the microbiologist, because that to me is quite fascinating that he's cultivating mushrooms.
Look, honestly, someone just mentioned him to me,
right.
And it's literally word of mouth. Like, if someone's not sending me an email or an Instagram saying, Zoe, I've got strawberry gum, or I've got excess this, or would you be interested in that? Another person's saying to me, have you heard about Tom? He's at the Healesville Market. Have you met him before? It sounds exactly like what you would want to do. So it's literally a matter of, like word of mouth, somebody rocking up one day and just being like, I've got quinces if you want to buy them, you know, just because it's an inviting space. Amazing. You know, I've sort of put it out there that if you've got stuff, tell me and I'll buy it, you know. So it's just like that. And very much when we first opened, you know, we were living in Christmas Hills. It's very close to here. I already knew about some of the people based on farmers markets that I went to. I did a bit of research on the area, but then I also had a lot of people after we had opened just approach us. Yeah, because I mean, it's you know, a lot of the people we get produce from are, if they don't have on-site sort of farm gate, they are at markets and things like that. We're not big enough to be able to, you know, fully support them. And we've got quite a few people that we do get fruit and veg from, because everyone does something a little bit different. And some people can sort of open their arms and grow specific things, whereas other people can't do that. Maybe there's not enough space. So, you know, we've got a farm in St Helena called Caring Farm Co. that we get seedlings from. They grow a lot of speciality items, which is really nice. But then we get a lot of bulk bulk veg from Strathewen. They do eggs. They used to do mushrooms. We used to get our mushrooms from them. But then they also do like broad beans and garlic and stuff like that. And then we get a little bit of stuff from Timbara Farm, and they do really restaurant-y stuff. So sort of all the pretty leaves and you know those. And they actually they're actually amazing. They're botanists maybe, or microbiologists. No, they'd be botanists, and they supply a lot of seeds to places.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is kind of impressive.
Yeah. So you're changing the menu every day, every
sort of
service.
Constant. Yeah.
How do you? I'm always so intrigued. I speak to all different, like lots of chefs, and I'm still intrigued about where those ideas come from. Does it feel like a chore to come up with something each service, or?
So it's just natural. So the whole menu doesn't change every service, because I think that you would lose consistency.
Yeah.
So for example, we just had the week off for Easter, and which is nice because I don't write anything that I do down. Like, I don't like to remember anything that I do. So each year when an item of produce comes in, like quinces are sort of slowly starting to come in. We've just had all this corn. I've been getting beetroots. I just got cherry guavas, which I'm very excited about. When it comes in, I go, oh, cherry guavas. Oh, what did I do with those last time? Oh, I can't remember. That's fine. I'm going to do this time. It's just like this fun game of like working out the problem or putting the puzzle piece in the right place. So I actually really enjoy it. I mean, sometimes I get stuck. But often a lot of the ideas I have just actually happen while I'm doing service. Yeah. So I'll be serving something and I'll be like, oh, you know what? Actually, I think that would go better with the broad beans and maybe I'll do it like this. I like this dish, but maybe tomorrow I'm actually going to do this, this and this. So it's a bit of a natural progression, I would say.
And I guess because you've got a repertoire of although you don't want to remember some things, but there must be a repertoire of flavours and textures and combinations in your head. I just think that's incredible. And do you get inspiration from elsewhere? Do you look at books or online?
Not really.
No? Okay.
I do have a lot of books, but they're more like very specific things, like, fermenting or making miso or stuff like that, cheese making, things like that. Yeah, technical things. Yeah. But in terms of like really pretty books, I don't have a lot of that. And I actually like that because I don't want to see something amazing that someone's done and be like, oh, I want to do that. I'd prefer to go and eat somewhere and be like, that was delicious. I'm going to make sure I never do that. I just don't want to, it's nice to gather inspiration from what people are doing, and I don't have an issue with people doing it. But I also really like challenging myself to like come up with something different, maybe something a bit more unexpected. So most of the inspiration would come from actually trying to work with the produce, and sometimes it doesn't work, and that's fine. The idea doesn't work, and also being on the farm and actually being there and smelling it and seeing it. You gather inspiration from the farmer's excitement about the product maybe as well, or that something hasn't worked out. Like, we grew this corn and actually it hasn't, it's not been pollinated properly, so, half the kernels aren't there and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, that's okay, because actually maybe I could use them to do this, this and this. So you gather inspiration from the whole story maybe. Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I guess that's the way that people would have cooked in the past, when people are living off the land and having to... this is what you've got and you've got to make something from it. So that's an exciting way. It's an exciting way to cook, for sure.
Yeah, and like, what have I got? And, this is a bit small. It was supposed to be bigger, but that's okay because I can do this with it instead. Like, it's a nice challenge, I think. It's fun. Yeah. And it's easier for me because I'm only serving 8 people and I'm in the kitchen on my own. Obviously, for a bigger restaurant, there's more customers to consider and there's staff that need to be trained and need to be shown, so it's actually super easy for me to just go, right, I'm going to do this. It's easy.
That's right. And tell me about bread, because I think bread is really important for you.
I love bread, and I think I've said this a few times where I feel like bread's kind of falling out a little bit. I feel like I go to restaurants every now and then and it's maybe not featured as much as it used to be, but I love bread so much. Whenever I go out, I see the bread on the menu. I always order it. I get very excited about it. I eat too much bread. I was actually saying to someone last night, it's like basically my major food group at their restaurant is just eating all the scraps of bread. And I've been making it for a really long time. It was probably one of the first things I learnt to make with my mum when I was a little kid, and she loved making bread. Yeah, right. So, of every restaurant I've ever worked in, we've done bread. It's something that I have always just really enjoyed. It's very, it's kind of how I learn. I'm a very physical learner. So like getting your hands in there and feeling it and being involved, that's very much me. And it's, I do it at home. It's a bit of a routine thing. And it's, the bread's kind of changed and progressed, the longer I've been doing it, and especially at Greasy Zoes, because we get the flour from Toorong, from Jason and Emma. And I was really excited about the flour when I first found out about them, and I remember I got it because they do all sorts of different, heirloom varieties and what have you. But they can be really difficult to work with, and they do lots of different types.
Okay.
So for flavour, but flavour doesn't necessarily translate texture. So when I first got it, I was so excited. I remember just for weeks, I couldn't get it to work, basically. And it was great because for me, like I'd been making bread for so long and it had been working out so well. It's like, oh yeah, bread, it's easy. But then to have this product that I really wanted to use and I really wanted to support these amazing people doing this incredible thing. And I remember just being like, how do I make this work? And now I used a couple of different flours from them, and it changes all the time. And I've got it to a place that I like it. And then when I try and chuck another flour in there, maybe it doesn't work as well, or I have to change the recipe a bit. But I like that. That's a good thing, I think. And I really enjoy watching people when the bread comes to the table, because the bread here comes a little bit later. It comes on the last entree before the main course, because that tends to be sort of like a saucy dish. And I think a lot of people are a bit like, we're not getting it. Like, where's the bread? And then when it comes out, people get really excited, and I like watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's so great too that you're mentioning sauce. So I'm a French teacher, and I lived in France for a year a long time ago. But I just remember growing up in New Zealand, it was really bad manners to, according to my parents, to mop up sauce with your bread. And in France, that was like absolutely okay. Like everything.
Yeah, and Italy as well.
So great.
Yeah, a lot of different countries.
The best.
Yeah.
And having good bread to mop up sauce is just...
and just getting in there, Some people are a bit too polite. They get their knife and they're cutting it and they're getting their butter, and it's like when I go out to eat, I just pick it up and I tear it, and that's right, it's getting mopped in there. Yeah. It's always really interesting to see how different people eat. And it's actually nice, because I think most of the people that come here immediately feel quite comfortable, because it is more of a casual fine dining experience, and that's what we want. Often people are sort of instantly relaxed, and they feel that they can do stuff like that. They can use their hands, they don't have to use the cutlery or whatever. Yeah.
I was saying to you that that I heard your name perhaps first, or maybe I'd already been aware of you, but when I was writing about the Courthouse Hotel in North Melbourne, it had been all renovated a couple of years ago, or maybe 3 years ago. And when I was talking to the new owners, they mentioned that they wanted to get it back to the heyday when Zoe Birch was cooking in the kitchen. I was like,
that's cute.
Wow, that's amazing. And then for me to hear that you started this 9 years ago and you were 28, so you must have been really young when you were at the courthouse.
Yeah, so I head chef the courthouse, and I would have been 24.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But I was just one of those... I don't know. It must have been the way I grew up, like, especially as a female. It was just like a bit of a feeling the need to prove myself. I was just kind of always that personality where it's like, I just really liked what I was doing, and I really was very, what's the word for it? Very determined, maybe. And I felt really comfortable in the courthouse. I got along really well with the owners, and I've always loved pubs.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful pub.
It is beautiful.
It's beautiful. Yeah. And it had a really big name with Stephen Burke, I think, years and years previously. So the potential was always there that it would do well. But those people did such good renovation.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. We went a couple of weeks after they opened, and I was just like, this is amazing.
Oh, and they're into the playing vinyl and stuff as well.
Yeah, I know.
And,
I went there recently. Yeah.
And the upstairs and the accommodation's really nice as well.
I know. I haven't seen the accommodation, but I did
job.
see the upstairs, the function space.
Yeah.
Because they very kindly took me on a tour, which was very nice. I love that pub.
Well, given that you were what they're aspiring to, of course they would.
Actually, it was funny. I went in there maybe like a couple of months ago and saw a concert at the festival hall, and went there for a beer. And I think it was the head chef, I'm not sure. He came up to me. I was at the bar, and he was like, "Oh, you're Zoe. Like, you used to work here." I was like, "Oh my gosh, no one's ever recognised me
They
before."
had your picture on the no.
Yeah, they probably do. It's probably framed in the toilet or something. Yeah, it's with Staffy.
Think, what would Zoe do?
What would Zoe do right now? Yeah, that's right. No, beautiful pub. Love that building so much.
But speaking of those kinds of things, I mean, you have had many accolades and chef hats, and I've read articles where you're described as one of the most exciting young chefs in Australia. Is it important for you to get that feedback and to get those accolades?
I mean, I'm not that young anymore, but no. I mean, yeah, it's nice, but it's certainly not. I think if that's the reason you're doing it, it's probably not going to last, or it's probably not a good thing. I was chatting to someone about this recently, but honestly, I wake up every day and I get really excited to come to work. You know, it's hard because I've got 2 little kids, and so I work nights, so there's an element of it which is almost feels a bit selfish. But yeah, you know, especially like at the moment on the menu, we have so much interesting, exciting produce. When I was doing service last night, I was literally thinking about how lucky I am to have all this crazy stuff. I've got all these beautiful figs, I've got cherry guavas, I've got rock melon that a local farm grew. Just all these really amazing, like saltbush, and one of our farmers have macadamias that they're growing, like just ridiculous. So I was just looking through my fridge, you know, last night as I was serving it, thinking I am actually incredibly lucky and feeling particularly inspired. And no, I just really enjoy doing it. I honestly don't think you could do this particular restaurant if you didn't enjoy it. Because even though we're only catering to 8 people a night, 32 people a week, it's still like a huge amount of commitment and, you know, time. And I think you would probably go crazy if you didn't have like an actual love for it. Yeah. But yeah, no, I really enjoy like having like little ideas and rolling with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the arc of your week? So you've got 3 days where you're on here. Yeah. But I imagine there is a lot of things going on behind the scenes. Yeah. So what does your week look like?
Yeah, so there's usually my favourite day where I sit down and do all the paperwork. That's definitely my favourite day. Where I sit down, pay the bills and do the emails and all that sort of stuff. And then either a Tuesday or a Wednesday, I do a cleaning and a prep day. So, I mean, any chefs listening to this will know that 60% of the job is cleaning. So, like, there's a big cleaning day and there's a big prep day, and there's a day to go out to the farm and pick up the produce. And we have we've got green waste that we take out and they compost and stuff like that. So that's a whole day, and it's usually a Tuesday or a Wednesday, sort of depending with our kids' school. Because they go to quite a alternative school, so we're actually very involved in it. So depending on what we're doing there, so I do a bit of cooking there, like I teach a bit of cooking with the kids. Great. It's only small. So yeah, depending on that, it's either a Tuesday or Wednesday. It's like a cleaning prep farm day, and then we operate Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So we do Thursday night, Friday night, and then Saturday we do a late lunch and an evening. So 4 services, and so the Thursday I'm here from 9 o'clock until whenever we close, and then Friday is a little bit more casual. I usually get here maybe like 11 o'clock, and then that's the rest of the day. And then Saturday it's a double, so I'm here early in the morning the whole day. And then Sunday's sort of like should be a relaxed day, but it's more of a family day. That's how it's usually just 4 days, and then there's paperwork and stuff in there. So it's actually not too bad.
Nice. And where did it all start for you? I think it sounds from what I've read that you grew up in a family that grew things and cooked with food that they'd grown in quite an idyllic part of the world. Is that?
Yeah, so I was born in Perth but grew up in Seymour, which is the Mitchell Shire. So the Golden River runs through there. And my mum was just a big permaculture lady. So we lived in suburbia, but we had this random 1.2 acre property.
Wow.
Yeah, really, really strange. And so she just kind of converted most of it to garden and orchard. So we had this massive vegetable garden and orchard. And so we would grow everything and cook it. And, my mum, we never bought tomato sauce. Mum would be making tomato sauce. Like, you'd walk into the kitchen during the season, like a hot day, and she'd be, like, boiling away the tomatoes to make sauce. And we never bought bread. She always made bread. So that was kind of, cauliflower pickles, like just all these things. So that's kind of what my sister and I grew up with. So I think it was probably a natural thing. Because I really enjoyed it. My sister likes food and she enjoyed it too, but she was just not as keen, whereas I was just always in the kitchen sort of like soaking it up and being involved and really enjoying it.
Yeah.
So it definitely stemmed from that.
Yeah. So was there a time when you thought, yep, this is what I'm going to do?
I think the whole time, in all honesty. Like I reflect on it often, and I remember from primary school, it was like, you know, you do that thing in primary school, it's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it was just always chef. And I never necessarily, I didn't know what that meant. You know, later when I was in high school, and you know, you start to see like careers advisors and stuff like that in high school, and then you start to go through, oh, you do an apprenticeship and you get a job doing this or whatever, and then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, right, and then it starts to take form. But I don't know, just randomly, I'm not sure if someone said it to me as a young person, like maybe you should be a chef, I'm not sure, but it was just always that thing. It was like, oh yeah, I'll be a chef. And everyone around was like, oh yeah, Zoe will cook. That's what she will probably do.
Yeah, wow.
And yeah, I did.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, maybe I couldn't come up with anything else.
You've been brainwashed into it.
Yeah, brainwashed, that's right. Gaslit into it.
Yeah. And so when you were doing your apprenticeship or stepped into those first kitchens, did it meet your expectations?
So the first job I got was at this place called Trawool Resort, which is in Trawool, which is really close to Seymour. And it was this massive resort which had a bistro and like a fancy restaurant and like a function room. And someone came to the high school that I went to and said, we're looking for a kitchen hand. And my mum said, oh, you should do that. And so when I went there, I was like, okay, kitchen hand, I'll be washing dishes and peeling potatoes, you know, whatever, peeling onions, that's fine. But they actually got me to do a bunch of, I assumed they wanted to see what I could do. So they got me to do a bunch of sort of more interesting technical prep, like, I don't know, peeling prawns and things like that. And I could very easily do it because I did stuff like that at home with my mum. And so I think that they were like, and it was a female crew, which was really cool.
Yeah, right.
It was really interesting. And which is not very usual, especially at it's basically like a big pub that I was working at, and there was these two women in charge and then a couple of small, like younger chefs maybe that were all female. And so they were watching me like peel these prawns and do all these things, and they were like, oh, you can do service with us, basically. We'll hire someone else to wash the dishes. So I was actually pretty lucky immediately. I didn't have to do too much of the sort of work starting from the bottom and getting to the top. Like I did start from the bottom, but I kind of got to cook food immediately, which was very lucky, I think.
Well, and also obviously you had the skill, I think. Maybe lucky in the context of having all women, but I think you knew what you were doing. So
yeah. And then from there, I think I was there for a little while. I started that when I was 15. So I started doing that when I was really young.
Wow.
And I was doing my VCE at the same time.
Oh my goodness, okay.
So I was doing a school-based apprenticeship at the same time as I did my VCE, because I like putting a lot of pressure on myself.
Clearly.
I like to be incredibly busy.
Yeah.
So strange to think about now. Makes me exhausted. And then I think I did 2 years there, and then I went and worked at the Middle Brighton Baths.
Yeah, right.
With John Lepp. And who was a pretty well-known chef at the time. Like he was the head chef at Jacques Raymond, and he worked at Two Faces with a really well-known chef, German chef. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But I ended up working with John like in 3 or 4 restaurants because he's such a really lovely person with a really lovely temperament. Never, like, always very calm, very skillful chef. And I worked with him in, multiple restaurants sort of across the city. And I'm really happy that I did that because most of the working environments that I was in, because he was in charge, were really positive and kind, and there wasn't a lot of ego, and it wasn't like people screaming and throwing things. It was like really respectful, and there were a lot of women in the kitchen, which was nice.
Yeah.
So, and I think I did that on purpose. I'm not really sure. I think I wanted to enjoy my job. I didn't want to wake up going to a really nice restaurant but hating it. So, I kind of just followed him around, and we had a really good, we had a great working relationship, he and I. Yeah. Yeah,
and I think that is really vital. I think the reason I started conversation with a chef is because a friend of mine in Christchurch in New Zealand was a head chef, and she had worked in London and Brisbane and Christchurch, and I guess that's in the in the 90s and early 2000s, and she said that as a woman head chef, she had to do a lot to earn the respect of her crew, whereas a man could go in and had to do quite a lot to lose it. And I was a bit fascinated by that, but she also talked with such passion about food and the industry that I loved having conversations with her, and I was just thinking, I think this should be a thing. People should hear all of the story behind the food.
Yeah.
But people like, Annie Smithers and who else did I speak to? Someone that worked for her just said once they worked in Annie Smithers' kitchen, it was such this would have been in the 80s and 90s, that this other woman had always been put on salad or
desserts,
pastry. Yeah.
I know.
And then when she went to work for Annie, that was when she really stepped up in her cooking, because Annie gave her that power and stuff. But yeah, it's astounding, and I hope things have improved.
I think so. I think there's a lot more female chefs now. I think that people know their rights. And I think that women have always been strong, but women also don't like to rock the boat. And I think that that's changed. And I have so many examples of that very thing. There's so many examples of me starting in kitchens and then being like, okay, we'll get you on larder. And it's like, no. I'll do the meat section. I remember very clearly, doing a trial at a particular restaurant in the city centre, which I worked at for a little while and actually enjoyed. But the chef, or the owner, was kind of well known. I didn't actually know who he was, but apparently he was quite well known. And I remember he was like, okay, cool, we'll get you to do larder. And I was like, actually, can I just do the meat section? He was like, oh, you think you can handle it? And it's like, mate, yeah. And I remember just killing it, obviously, because I've been trained, like I know what I'm doing. And I remember him being like, oh, okay, yeah, you can do this from now on. And it's like, yeah, don't downgrade my abilities. There's nothing wrong with the larder section, and it's very important to learn it. If you want to be a well-rounded chef, you should learn every section. And I love doing the pastry section. Like I love doing the desserts at Greasy Zoes. I do lots of things like croissants, and I put a lot of effort into my pastries and bread and stuff like that. So I don't think there's anything wrong with those sections, but I think it's incredibly sexist to assume a woman's only going to want to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And it happens all the time. But I'm hoping, I kind of feel like I'm not in the industry anymore because I kind of hang out in here on my own. But I am hoping that, it's not like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just coming back to Greasy Zoes, I understand that you've got some change happening here. So you and Lachlan have been running this together. How did you meet?
In a kitchen.
Yeah, nice.
At the courthouse, actually.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So
Nice.
Lachlan is a front of house. That's where he started, in the Yarra Valley, actually. He worked at... I'm just trying to think where he worked, at Belgownie Estate, I think, which is a winery, and there's a vineyard there. But he then he really loves cooking, so he ended up doing an apprenticeship.
Oh, okay.
So he, when he was in his 20s, he went, actually, I want to learn how to cook. And yeah, he was working out the front at the courthouse, and then he went into the kitchen, so that's how I met him. Oh. Yeah. So we've been literally Lachlan and I have known each other for 15 years, and we've literally worked together almost the whole time. So we're best mates, and we have a mutual respect for each other and each other's opinions. We've been running Greasy Zoes for 9 years, and next year will be our 10th year. We were discussing that we've got small children, we've had those kids over the course of having the restaurant, which has been amazing that the restaurant has provided us the opportunity to actually do that, especially as a 2-person team. It's a bit ridiculous, really. I think Lachlan and I have always discussed that the potential of, the fact that having small children, it's very complicated. We both work in the restaurant of the evening, so we have friends and family that look after our kids when we're at work. And it has worked really well. Obviously, sometimes it doesn't. Maybe we get sick, we have to cancel. It hasn't happened a lot, but it's definitely happened. But we have discussed for years that there will be the potential one day when it will probably have to change. And both of our kids are in primary school now. Our youngest just started this year. And they just need a little bit more support. So Lachlan's actually going to be stepping back from the service of Greasy Zoes, and he's going to spend a bit more time supporting our kids at school, which is very exciting for him, and I'm a little bit jealous, to be honest. And then someone else is going to come in and do service in the restaurant instead of Lachlan. which is really huge because, you know, I've been working with Lachlan in this building for 9 years, so it's going to be really weird having someone else here. But Locke's still going to be very involved. Like, it's his restaurant still, so he'll be, you know, still doing the wine list, and, you know, he'll be going out to the farms, and, you know, I'll be ringing him and saying, oh, I forgot to bring this, can you go get it? You know, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But he's just not going to be doing service. He'll probably do it every now and then because he's obviously I think he's in two minds about it. Like, he's known it for 9 years and he loves this job, but then also he loves our kids. Yeah. And they need a little bit more help at the moment. So our friend James, who is a dear friend of ours who we've known since we opened the restaurant, his name's James Lance, and he owned a winery called Punch Winery in St Andrews, which is actually a really well-known winery, and James has gotten a lot of accolades for his wine. And he sold his winery last year, and for the last year he's kind of been pottering around trying to figure out what he's going to do, wants a bit of a break from winemaking, all that sort of thing. And so he's going to come and he's going to be my second at GZ's. And it's actually really perfect. It's actually, the timing is perfect, and it's a perfect fit because James and Lachlan are actually very similar people. Yeah. They're very personable, and James loves food, and he loves wine, and he loves music. You know, a big part of the restaurant is the record player, so he loves music. He actually builds amplifiers and pickups for guitars, so he loves music. Yeah. And he's just he's so friendly. So I think that a lot of people talk about Lachlan's service style as being genuine hospitality, which I really love, because I think that, you know, it is supposed to be like you're coming here for dinner. I don't want it to be too cold or over the top. And James is very similar to that. Like, he loves having a chat. He loves talking about food and wine. And so, it's going to be different. Yeah. But I think it's going to be great. Yeah. And I think it's going to be really nice to have someone else in the building after 9 years, you know, with different eyes that can sort of see things and suggest things, and someone that I get along really well with, who's a really good friend. Yeah. So I think we'll still have lots of fun. Well, I think it's not brave, but it'll be a transition, and all three of you will have to that's right, feel the vibe. Just to use that word. Oh God, the vibe. We need to get a new word. Yeah. Feel the energy. Yeah, feel the energy. That's a better word. Let's say energy. Yeah. Look, James is a local as well. He lives in Eltham. Perfect. And you know, his winery was out St Andrews, which is about 10 minutes up the road. So he actually knows a lot of the people around here too. So, you know, people coming in and having a chat with me and having a chat with Lachlan, we've known them for 9 years, and James is kind of in a really similar boat where he actually knows a lot of the people out here. Obviously, we get a lot of people from all over Australia, and we get people internationally as well. Amazing. But in terms of the local community and the people that are used to coming in and seeing Lach and I think it'll just kind of be very similar in that regard. So I'm actually very excited. A little bit jealous that Lachlan's going to have the weekends and the nights off. Be telling me all the cool stuff that he gets to do with the kids. Yeah. But I'm excited. I'm excited that, you know, we don't have to close the restaurant, you know? That's right. Yeah, I think some people are probably in a difficult position where something like this was to happen. Yeah, that might be their only option. And I think that we have built such a strong bond with our community that we don't have to do that. Yeah. So we've got it's almost a new season for Greasy Zoes, and I'm very excited about it. It's great. Yeah. Well, I guess then with all that in mind, usually my final question is, considering the span of your career and the different places you've worked, what would your advice be to a young person starting out as a chef? Yeah, so I was talking about this the other day, actually, because I'm not good at stuff like that, because I feel like everyone's brains are so different. But honestly, or starting out, you know, I think you need to go with, I think you should write a list of what you actually want out of it. You know, if you want to be a world famous chef, then I can't offer you any advice. But if you're just really passionate and you just really like cooking, or, you know, the service style of things, or you're into wine, I think you need to kind of map out, come up with a bit of a plan, sort of almost similar to what I did, where you can gather information from people you respect, but be respected and enjoy it. I think if you're not enjoying it, then you need to reflect on if it's right for you. I mean, not everyone has that personality. People can just kind of push through even if they're not enjoying it. But for me, I think actually enjoying the learning process was very important. And I think it's also okay if you're having a tough time to have a break. Because if you're having a really tough time and things aren't working out, you can't actually gain any perspective if you're still in it. And I think it's okay to step back and reflect and then map out moving forward. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No,
Thanks
that's
so
okay.
much.
No, it's fun.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Conversation with a Chef with Zoe Birch at Greasy Zoes in Hurstbridge. You can check out all the goodness on Instagram at Greasy Zoes. That's all one word, GreasyZoes. And if you'd like to hear more stories from other chefs, I'm also on Instagram at Conversation with a Chef. Also, all one very long word. You can read this chat online at www.conversationwithachef.com, and of course you can follow me on Apple and Spotify podcasts. I'd absolutely love it if you told a friend about my chats. I still reckon it's the best way to get these delicious stories out into the world. Once again, thank you so much for listening. Have a great day and bon appetit.